In the dim glow of Hollywood's golden lights, where legends once seemed untouchable, there are stories that never receive their final chapter. This is the journey into the lives of 13 iconic stars whose brilliance was halted by sudden, devastating strokes, moments that silenced entire eras of cinema. They were symbols of beauty, power, and immortality on screen, yet even they could not escape the fragility of life. Step with me into the final frames of their stories, where fame meets fate, and where every memory becomes a legacy that time can never erase. Number 1. Cary Grant. On December 29, 1986, Cary Grant arrived in Davenport, Iowa, prepared for an evening appearance that should have been nothing more than another graceful moment in a long and elegant life. He was calm, charming, still carrying the quiet sophistication that had defined him for decades. But as the afternoon unfolded, subtle signs began to appear, his complexion fading, his speech turning slightly uneven, and a heaviness settling into his movements. He excused himself to rest, unaware that fate was already closing in. Minutes later, he collapsed in his hotel suite, unable to speak or stand. Paramedics rushed him to St. Luke's Hospital, where scans revealed the truth: a massive, catastrophic stroke. His wife stood nearby as doctors fought to stabilize him, but the damage was far too severe. Cary Grant never regained consciousness. Late that night, under the sterile glow of hospital lights, the man who embodied Hollywood elegance took his final breath. When news broke the next morning, shock rippled across the world. Cary Grant was more than a movie star. He was the essence of charm, wit, and timeless presence. Audiences remembered him fleeing across fields in North by Northwest, sparking romance in Charade, and defining suave masculinity in An Affair to Remember. Friends recalled a humble man, warm in conversation, sharp in humor, and endlessly curious about life. Even in retirement, he had continued touring, meeting fans, and proving that grace never fades. Doctors later confirmed the stroke had been sudden and unstoppable. His departure was heartbreaking, yet strangely fitting, quiet, dignified, and without spectacle. Cary Grant's final day mirrored the roles that made him immortal: composed, unforgettable, and full of quiet strength. Number 2. Debbie Reynolds. On December 28, 2016, Hollywood was shaken by a tragedy that felt almost unreal. Just one day after the world mourned the passing of her daughter, Carrie Fisher, Debbie Reynolds collapsed at her Beverly Hills home while discussing funeral arrangements. The weight of grief had settled heavily on her, and within moments, her condition worsened so suddenly that she was rushed by ambulance to Cedars-Sinai Menopause Center. Doctors worked urgently, but the stroke was massive and irreversible. By that afternoon, at 84 years old, Debbie Reynolds was gone. Her death stunned millions. The idea that mother and daughter had left the world within 24 hours became one of the most haunting stories in Hollywood history. Debbie Reynolds had spent her life radiating joy, strength, and boundless energy. From the dazzling charm of Singin' in the Rain to the determined spirit of the unsinkable Molly Brown, she embodied the pure heart of classic American cinema. Her smile lit up screens, and her grace made her a symbol of Hollywood's golden years. Those who knew her said she had always been defined by love for her family, her craft, and her fans. Friends believed the emotional shock of losing Cary was simply too much for her heart to bear. Her son later shared that her final words were, "I want to be with her." In that moment, the world understood that their bond had been deeper than fame, deeper than time, and deeper than life itself. In the days that followed, tributes poured in from every corner of the industry. Debbie Reynolds was remembered not just as a star, but as a fighter, a preservationist of Hollywood history, and a woman whose legacy shone as brightly as any spotlight. Her passing marked the end of an era, yet her spirit continued to live on, in film, in memory, and in the timeless echo of a mother's love. Number 3. Bill Paxton. On February 25, 2017, the film world was struck by heartbreaking news. Bill Paxton, known for his warmth, versatility, and unmistakable presence, passed away in Los Angeles after suffering a fatal stroke following heart surgery. He had gone into the operation with optimism, continuing to work just days before, giving no sign that anything was seriously wrong. But complications emerged unexpectedly, and the stroke that followed was sudden, devastating, and beyond recovery. Bill Paxton had been a uniquely beloved figure in Hollywood. Born in Texas, he grew into one of the industry's most reliable and emotionally grounded performers, capable of transforming any role, no matter how small, into something unforgettable. He first captured attention in films like The Terminator, Aliens, and Near Dark, where his electric energy and wry humor made him stand out even among star-studded casts. During the 1990s, he became a true leading man. Audiences followed him into raging storms in Twister, onto doomed spacecraft in Apollo 13, and into the icy depths of Titanic. He could play the everyman with unmatched sincerity, the hero with humility, and the flawed character with empathy. Co-stars often said Paxton had a rare gift. He made everyone around him feel comfortable, respected, and seen. Off-screen, he was known for his kindness, curiosity, and passion for storytelling. He encouraged younger actors, embraced every crew member, and carried himself without ego. In the days after his passing, Hollywood poured out memories of his humor, generosity, and steady presence, a reminder that greatness isn't only measured in box office numbers, but in the hearts a person touches. Bill Paxton's death felt especially cruel because he had so much more to give. Yet his legacy remains alive, in every film, in every line delivered with truth, and in the spirit of a man who made audiences believe in the humanity of every character he played. Number 4. Luke Perry. On March 4, 2019, Hollywood woke to a wave of disbelief. Luke Perry, once the brooding heartthrob of a generation, passed away at the age of 52 after suffering a massive stroke. Days earlier, he had been rushed to Providence St. Joseph Medical Center after being found unresponsive in his home. Doctors fought tirelessly, but the damage was far beyond repair. Surrounded by his closest family and friends, he took his final breath that morning, leaving millions stunned by the tragedy. Luke Perry had risen to fame in the early 1990s as Dylan McKay on Beverly Hills 90210, a role that turned him into an instant cultural icon. His mixture of mystery, vulnerability, and smoldering charm captivated audiences around the world. For many, he wasn't just a TV character. He was a symbol of youth, rebellion, and emotional depth during an era that defined modern teen drama. But Perry was far more than a teen idol. He continued to grow as an actor with roles in The Fifth Element, 8 Seconds, and acclaimed television work in Oz, Jeremiah, and later Riverdale, where he played Fred Andrews, a steady and grounded father figure who reflected Perry's own gentle nature. Off-screen, he was admired for his humility, loyalty, and kindness. He avoided Hollywood excess, preferring quiet days on his farm and spending time with his children, Jack and Sophie. When news of his condition spread, fans and colleagues prayed for a miracle, but the stroke had been overwhelmingly severe. Tributes flooded social media, stories of kindness, generosity, small acts of compassion he never bragged about. Luke Perry's passing felt like the loss of a piece of modern pop culture, a reminder that even the brightest spirits can be taken without warning. His legacy endures in the characters he shaped, the people he touched, and the gentle warmth he carried through every stage of his life. Number 5. Lauren Bacall. On August 12, 2014, Hollywood bid farewell to one of its last true icons when Lorre Bacall passed away at her home in the Dakota Building in New York City. The news came quietly, almost gently, much like her final moments. She had suffered a massive stroke at the age of 89, leaving behind a career that had defined elegance, intelligence, and unmistakable presence for more than 7 decades. Lorre Bacall first stunned the world in the 1940s with her smoky voice, cool confidence, and hypnotic gaze. Born Betty Joan Persky in New York, she was discovered while working as a model, and soon found herself cast in To Have and Have Not, the film that not only launched her career, but ignited one of Hollywood's most legendary love stories with Humphrey Bogart. Their on-screen chemistry was electric, but their real-life romance made them timeless. Her films became classics: The Big Sleep, Key Largo, How to Marry a Millionaire, each one showcasing her unique combination of strength, wit, and vulnerability. She was the kind of actress who could command a scene with a single look, a woman whose very presence rewrote the definition of glamour. Even as the decades passed, she never allowed herself to be trapped by nostalgia. She continued acting on stage, in movies, and on television, always pushing forward, always reinventing herself. Friends described her as fiercely independent, sharp-minded, and deeply loyal. She walked her dog through Central Park, attended art events, and stayed connected to the creative world she loved. She once said she didn't dwell on the past because life is too precious to waste on longing. When news of her passing spread, tributes came from every corner of the world. For many, it felt like the closing of old Hollywood's final chapter. Yet Lorre Bacall's legacy never dimmed. Her voice, her gaze, her spirit, they remain etched into the fabric of cinema, a reminder of an era where class and courage walked hand in hand. Number 6. Gene Kelly. On February 2, 1996, the world lost one of its most joyful and groundbreaking performers. Gene Kelly passed away at his home in Beverly Hills after a series of severe strokes, the final one proving impossible to survive. He was 83 years old, and his death marked the end of an era defined by music, movement, and an optimism that seemed to shine straight from the screen into the hearts of millions. Gene Kelly had never been just a dancer. He was a force of nature, athletic, expressive, and endlessly inventive. Born in Pittsburgh, he rose from local dance studios to Hollywood stardom, reshaping how the world viewed musical cinema. His performances in Singin' in the Rain, An American in Paris, and On the Town didn't just entertain, they elevated dance into pure storytelling. His movements were bold, emotional, and full of life, turning everyday streets into stages and simple moments into poetry. By the mid-1990s, Kelly's health had declined after earlier strokes in 1994 and 1995. Yet those who visited him said his spirit remained bright. He continued working on small creative projects, preserving the history of classic musicals, and sharing stories from a lifetime spent lifting the art of dance to new heights. Even as age slowed his body, his eyes still lit up whenever he spoke about film, rhythm, and the magic of performance. His passing left a profound silence in Hollywood. Tributes poured in from generations of dancers, actors, and filmmakers who had been shaped by his artistry. Many said Gene Kelly taught them that dance could express joy better than words ever could, that movement itself was a language of the soul. Though the final stroke took him quietly, his legacy remains loud and alive. Gene Kelly didn't just dance across raindrops, he transformed them into memories that will never fade. Number 7. Richard Burton. On August 5, 1984, the world was stunned by the sudden passing of Richard Burton. He died in his home in Séligny, Switzerland, after suffering a massive cerebral hemorrhage, a devastating form of stroke that struck without warning. He was just 58 years old.
Earlier that morning, he had seemed healthy and in good spirits, sharing quiet moments with his wife, Sally Burton. But within hours, everything changed. Paramedics arrived quickly, yet the damage was immediate and irreversible. Richard Burton had lived a life larger than the screen itself. Born Richard Jenkins in Wales, he rose from a humble mining village to become one of the greatest actors of the 20th century. His voice, rich, thunderous, and mesmerizing, became his signature. He earned 7 Academy Award nominations, delivering unforgettable performances in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Beckett, and The Spy Who Came In from the Cold. Every line he spoke carried weight, intensity, and poetic depth, making even the quietest moment feel monumental. His turbulent, passionate love story with Elizabeth Taylor captured global attention. They married twice, divorced twice, and remained forever tied to one another in the public's imagination. Their chemistry, on and off-screen, became one of Hollywood's most iconic legends. Yet away from the spotlight, Burton craved peace. He spent his later years reading, writing, and reflecting, choosing the calm of Switzerland over Hollywood's constant noise. When news of his death spread, tributes poured in from across the world. Fellow actors and directors mourned not just the loss of a performer, but the loss of a voice that felt carved from the earth itself. Richard Burton's life was fiery, imperfect, brilliant, and unforgettable. He left behind a legacy built on passion, honesty, and raw humanity. A reminder that true artistry comes from living boldly, loving fiercely, and speaking with a voice that touches the soul.
Number 8. Anne Baxter. On December 12, 1985, Hollywood lost one of its most gifted and versatile actresses when Anne Baxter passed away in New York City. 8 days earlier, she had suddenly collapsed on Madison Avenue while shopping near Rockefeller Center. Paramedics rushed her to Lenox Hill Hospital, where doctors discovered she had suffered a brain aneurysm that led to a severe stroke. Despite continuous efforts to save her, her condition never improved, and at 62 years old, she quietly slipped away. Anne Baxter had been destined for the spotlight. Born in Indiana and raised in New York, she grew up surrounded by creativity. Her grandfather was the legendary architect Frank Lloyd Wright. She entered Hollywood as a teenager and quickly proved she was more than just a pretty face. Intelligent, emotionally rich, and fiercely committed to her craft, she earned an Academy Award for her haunting performance in The Razor's Edge in 1946. But it was all about Eve that immortalized her. As the ambitious, calculating Eve Harrington, Baxter delivered one of the most iconic performances in film history, capturing the hunger, charm, and danger of a woman willing to sacrifice anything for fame. Her portrayal remains a masterclass in psychological complexity, studied and celebrated to this day. Throughout the 1950s and 1960s, Baxter thrived across film, stage, and television. She shined as Nefertiti in the Ten Commandments, bringing regal power and emotional depth to every scene. Off-screen, she was known for her warmth, intelligence, and professionalism. She embraced new artistic challenges even in her later years, eventually joining the cast of the TV series Hotel, where she worked until shortly before her collapse. When news of her death spread, colleagues and fans mourned the loss of a woman whose talent transcended genres and generations. Anne Baxter's legacy endures in performances that still burn with truth and vulnerability, a reminder of a star whose brilliance never dimmed, even as time caught up with her. Number 9. Peter Lorre. On March 23, 1964, Hollywood lost one of its most distinctive and unforgettable performers when Peter Lorre passed away at his home in Los Angeles.
Earlier that evening, he had complained of feeling unwell before quietly collapsing in a chair. Paramedics arrived within minutes, but the stroke had already caused catastrophic damage. At just 59 years old, the man whose presence had defined an entire era of cinema was gone. Peter Lorre was unlike anyone else in film history. Born in Central Europe, he carried with him an accent, a gaze, and a quiet intensity that made him magnetic on screen. His breakthrough role in Fritz Lang's M remains one of the most chilling performances ever captured on film, a portrayal so haunting that it instantly cemented his place in cinema history. After fleeing Europe during the rise of war, Lorre found a new home in Hollywood, where he became one of the great character actors of the 1940s. He appeared in classics such as Casablanca, The Maltese Falcon, and Arsenic and Old Lace, often playing mysterious, troubled, or morally ambiguous figures who stole scenes with a single look. Audiences were drawn to him because he seemed both strange and deeply human, a man whose sadness and humor blended into something painfully real. Off-screen, Lorre was witty, intelligent, and adored by colleagues. He was a close friend of Humphrey Bogart and worked frequently with iconic directors who valued his unique talent. Despite his success, he struggled with exhaustion and health issues brought on by years of stress. Yet he continued acting with dignity and devotion until the end. When news of his passing reached the industry, tributes celebrated him as a groundbreaking artist who expanded the possibilities of character acting. Peter Lorre's legacy lives on in every role that values nuance over glamour, mystery over perfection, and emotion over spectacle. His face, his voice, and his presence remain etched into Hollywood's memory, a reminder that true screen power is not always loud, but unmistakably unforgettable.
Number 10. Claudette Colbert. On July 30, 1996, Hollywood said goodbye to one of its brightest and most enduring stars when Claudette Colbert passed away at her home in Speightstown, Barbados. She had suffered a series of strokes in her later years, and at 92, her body could no longer fight. Her death marked the close of a career that had shaped the very foundation of classic American cinema. Born in Paris and raised in New York City, Claudette Colbert became one of the defining actresses of the 1930s and 1940s. Her elegance, intelligence, and impeccable comedic timing made her a favorite among audiences and filmmakers alike. She rose to international fame with It Happened One Night, delivering a performance so charming and effortless that it earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress in 1935. The film became a cultural landmark, and her chemistry with Clark Gable set a new standard for romantic comedy. As her career flourished, she moved seamlessly between genres, shining in dramas like Since You Went Away, bringing royal magnetism to Cleopatra, and lighting up sophisticated comedies such as Midnight. Directors admired her discipline and professionalism, while fellow actors praised her sharp mind and generous spirit. She carried herself with quiet confidence, choosing privacy over scandal and letting her work speak for itself. In her later years, Colbert shifted to stage and television, continuing to earn acclaim well into her 70s. She eventually settled in Barbados, where she spent her days reading, painting, and enjoying the peaceful life she had earned after decades in the spotlight. Friends remembered her as graceful and witty, still possessing the spark that had made her unforgettable. When news of her death spread, tributes poured in from across the industry. Claudette Colbert was remembered not only as a star, but as a pioneer, an actress who elevated every role with intelligence, poise, and emotional truth. Though time has passed, her performances remain timeless, glowing with the elegance of an era she helped define.
Number 11. Bibi Andersson. On April 14, 2019, the world mourned the loss of one of Sweden's most beloved and internationally respected actresses when Bibi Andersson passed away in Stockholm. Her death came after a long struggle with complications from a severe stroke she had suffered a decade earlier in 2009. At 83 years old, she left behind a legacy that stretched far beyond Scandinavian cinema. Her influence had touched filmmakers, actors, and audiences across the globe. Bibi Andersson began her career as a young performer in commercials before fate led her to legendary director Ingmar Bergman. Their artistic partnership would shape some of the most profound films in world cinema. Andersson possessed a rare emotional honesty. Her face expressive, her voice gentle yet strong, and her performances grounded in deep human truth. She captured worldwide attention in films like The Seventh Seal, Wild Strawberries, and most famously, Persona, where her role as a talkative nurse opposite Liv Ullmann created one of the most hypnotic and psychologically complex duos in film history. Critics called her fearless, vulnerable, and astonishingly real, an actress who didn't merely act emotions but seemed to live inside them. As her career expanded, Andersson worked in both European and American productions, showing remarkable range. She appeared in Hollywood films like Duel at Diablo and took on challenging stage roles across Europe and the United States. Off-screen, she was known for her kindness, humility, and strong belief in supporting young artists. Even after her stroke left her with lasting health challenges, she continued to inspire those around her with quiet strength and resilience. When her passing was announced, tributes poured in from filmmakers, actors, and fans who remembered her as a symbol of artistic purity, a woman whose performances touched the deepest corners of the human heart. Bibi Andersson's presence remains alive in every frame she left behind, a reminder of cinema's power to reveal truth, beauty, and the fragile complexity of being human. Number 12. Ralph Richardson. On October 10, 1983, the world of cinema and theater lost one of its most respected and quietly magnificent performers when Sir Ralph Richardson passed away in London. He had suffered a series of strokes that gradually weakened him, and at 80 years old, the final one brought his long and extraordinary journey to a close. His passing marked the end of a generation of British acting giants whose artistry shaped both stage and screen. Born in Cheltenham, England, Richardson began his career on the theatre stage, where his commanding voice, subtle expressions, and extraordinary emotional control quickly set him apart. Alongside Laurence Olivier and John Gielgud, he became part of the legendary trio that redefined British theatre, bringing Shakespeare, Chekhov, and modern drama to life with unmatched depth and clarity. His transition into film was equally remarkable. Richardson brought dignity, wisdom, and a quiet intensity to roles in acclaimed films such as The Fallen Idol, The Heiress, and Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan. American audiences grew to admire him not for flash or spectacle, but for the profound humanity he brought to every character, whether a nobleman, a priest, or a humble caretaker. Despite his towering talent, Richardson remained deeply modest. He often said that acting was less about speaking and more about listening, less about commanding attention and more about revealing truth. Even in his later years, when minor strokes began to limit his movement, he continued to perform on stage, driven by an unshakable love for storytelling. When he passed away, tributes poured in from both sides of the Atlantic. Actors and directors admired his discipline, his grace, and his ability to reveal emotion with the smallest gesture. Ralph Richardson's legacy is one of timeless craft, a reminder that great acting is built not on extravagance, but on honesty, presence, and soul. Number 13. Gary Coleman. On May 28, 2010, the entertainment world was stunned by the sudden passing of Gary Coleman. Just 2 days earlier, he had suffered a fall at his home in Utah, striking his head. At first, the injury seemed minor, but within hours his condition worsened dramatically. He was rushed to Utah Valley Regional Medical Center, where doctors discovered a severe intracranial hemorrhage, a type of hemorrhagic stroke caused by bleeding inside the brain. Despite intensive treatment, the damage was irreversible. At only 42 years old, Gary Coleman was taken off life support and passed away surrounded by loved ones. Gary Coleman had been one of television's most recognizable and beloved stars. Rising to fame as a child actor, he became a global sensation as Arnold Jackson on Different Strokes. With his bright smile, quick comedic timing, and the unforgettable catchphrase, "What you talkin' about, Willis?" he captured the hearts of millions. His presence was electric, funny, warm, and filled with a spark that made him impossible to ignore. As he grew older, Coleman faced a series of personal and health challenges. A lifelong struggle with kidney disease had stunted his growth and required multiple transplants, forcing him to navigate fame while coping with ongoing medical complications. Yet through every setback, he remained determined, resilient, and committed to working. He continued acting in film and television, appearing in comedies, voice roles, and cameo performances that reminded audiences of the charm that had made him a star. His death felt especially tragic because it stemmed from a simple accident, one that spiraled into a catastrophic medical emergency. Fans around the world mourned the loss of a performer who had brought so much laughter to their childhoods. Tributes reflected not just admiration for his talent, but sympathy for the battles he faced behind the scenes. Gary Coleman's legacy lives on in the joy he brought to screens everywhere. His voice, his humor, and the light he carried, even through hardship, remain etched into pop culture history.